If you feel like you've lost your edge and you're constantly running on empty, you're not alone. Because in the last 20 years, testosterone levels in men have plummeted by nearly 50%. A few years ago, I was in the exact same position, but since then I figured out how to supercharge my testosterone levels without taking TRT. And today, I'm going to show you everything that I did. We'll cover the diet, the workouts, the habits, the supplements, and a few overlooked things that made a massive difference. And what's really cool is this works whether you're 35 or 65. So full screen the video and let's lock in. 15 years ago, I graduated from university and started working in the corporate world. It was long hours in the week and late nights fueled by heavy drinking sessions at the weekend. My sleep was patchy and my diet was a disaster. Meal deals at lunch, microwave dinners at night, and a constant stream of caffeine just to keep me going. But at the time, I thought I was doing okay. After all, everyone was doing the same thing. But looking back in hindsight, I realized now that I was running myself into the ground. I had constant brain fog, low-level anxiety 24/7, and no drive or motivation to do anything. Everything just felt hard. Without realizing it though, I was showing every classic sign of low testosterone. My energy was gone, my confidence was shattered, my sex drive was non-existent, and I couldn't remember the time that I genuinely felt excited about anything. Then just before my 30th birthday, I hit rock bottom and I realized that I couldn't go on like this. I knew I needed to make some drastic changes, so I went all in. I quit drinking, I started tracking my calories and macros, I was training like a beast, and I started taking my sleep seriously. This screenshot is 6 weeks into my transformation. I'd already lost 5 kg at this stage, but look at my metabolic age. It was clear I still had a long way to go, but I didn't give up. Just 4 months later, I was at 10% body fat. My metabolic age was 24, and my testosterone was a very respectable 25 nanomoles per liter. And for context, the normal testosterone range is massive, anything from 8 to 30 nanomoles per liter. But a guy sitting at 8 is going to feel drastically different from a guy sitting at 28. Both are technically normal, but the quality of life is vastly different. That was 7 years ago though, and I didn't stop there. I still felt like I had another gear in me. Fast forward to today, and at 37 years old, my metabolic age is 23 and my testosterone is maxed out at 30 nanomoles per liter. I've got more energy, my mental health has never been better, my mind has never been sharper, and my sex drive has never been higher. I'm training harder, I'm building muscle faster, I'm getting stronger all the time, and I feel, well, 23. I am essentially defying medical science. And this wasn't by accident. It was a result of changing how I lived, how I moved, how I trained, how I ate, and how I recovered. And that is what this video is about. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it so that you can do the same. Starting with the biggest game changer of them all, fat loss. If I was only allowed to give you one strategy to naturally boost your testosterone, it would be to do everything that you possibly can to lose body fat. But I'm not talking about just losing a few pounds or cleaning up your diet. I'm talking about getting lean enough to see a couple of abs. For most men, that means getting down to anything from 12 to 16% body fat. For context, when I had that test done a couple of weeks ago, I came out at 15.9% body fat. But you have to remember, I've been doing this for a very long time, and at my leanest, I was at 10%. Why is getting lean so important? Because excess body fat literally converts your testosterone into estrogen. And this is done through a process called aromatization. So if you're carrying a belly, you're not just storing fat. You're creating a hormonal profile of someone who's slower, weaker, and less driven. In fact, every inch that your waist grows, your testosterone drops. I've coached hundreds of guys through this, and without fail, the ones who drop fat first feel like a new man in just a few weeks. Their sleep improves, their sex drive comes back, and they have more energy. But more important than any of those, they have momentum. And that's why my entire coaching program is built around helping men over 35 get under 15% body fat. So if you want to find out how that works after you've watched this video, you can click the link in the description under it. Without a doubt, fat loss was the foundation for me. It wasn't even about having abs, to be honest with you. They came as a byproduct. It was about creating that hormonal environment I talked about a minute ago that allows testosterone to thrive, because there's a direct link between body fat percentage and testosterone levels. And here's the kicker. Being lean doesn't just raise your testosterone. It makes it easier for your body to build muscle because it's running more efficiently. And once that hormonal engine is running right, everything else improves. But here's where most guys screw this up. They try to lose fat by starving themselves. They slash their calories, they cut out carbs, they start running 5 times a week, and then wonder why they feel like death. And what happens? Their testosterone levels drop even further. You can't starve yourself to high testosterone. Why? Because your food is fuel. All 3 macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, play a very important role. If you're under-eating, under-recovering, and overtraining, your body doesn't give a shit about building muscle or raising your testosterone. It's just trying to survive. So here's how I fixed it. First, I set my calories properly. So to do that, I figured out my ideal body weight and then multiplied it by 12. So for a man who wants to weigh 180 pounds, that would be 2,160 calories, which works out to a realistic fat loss target without having to crash your calories too low. That gave me a baseline so I could confidently drop into a deficit without going too aggressive. But instead of treating that 2,160 target like a daily ritual, what you really want to do is multiply that number by 7 and look at it as a weekly budget. So in that example, it would be 15,120. That gave me room to eat a little bit more on social days whilst eating a little bit less when I was chilling at home. And if I went over one day, I didn't panic. I just adjusted the next. And what I found works really well, and what I tell a lot of my clients to do, is front load your deficit, because you tend to find that at the start of the week, Monday to Wednesday, let's say, social occasions are few and far between and your motivation is higher. Whereas at the back end of your week, you're going to be a little bit more tired, a little bit more stressed out, your willpower is going to have dropped, and the chances are you're going to be out and about on a Friday or a Saturday. So what I'd encourage you to do if you're just getting into this is sit down on a Sunday and actually plan out your week. You don't have to plan it down to the gram of protein or the exact number of calories, but just have a loose idea of what it's going to look like. And of course, this isn't perfect. Things come up unexpectedly, but 90% of the time as human beings, we're pretty predictable. And this way you realize that high calorie days aren't a failure. They're just part of your average. And that mindset shift stopped me falling off the wagon and binging at the weekends. It gave me a lot more control and a lot more freedom. And ultimately, it's what made the whole fat loss phase a lot more sustainable. Then I built my meals around protein, fiber, and water. I aim for at least 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight. So again, if I'm aiming to be 180 pounds, that's 180 grams of protein. It sounds like a lot, but protein is the most important macronutrient when it comes to building muscle, producing testosterone, and even appetite control. Next was fiber. So we're talking about fruit, veg, oats, and beans. Real, unprocessed food that helps support your gut health and your digestion. Fiber physically fills your stomach and reduces your urge to eat. And if your gut is a mess, your hormones will be too. Top tip for you here, I also added in some kefir because it's a fermented food. And then water. Loads of it. To be honest, I didn't count the exact liters I was drinking at first. I just made sure that I had a glass as soon as I woke up, and I always had the bottle with me. In fact, to this day, there is always a big water bottle in my sight. This is a huge deal because most guys are walking around chronically dehydrated, and that affects everything from blood flow to energy levels and even libido. I also added in testosterone-friendly foods, stuff that supports nutrient density, healthy cholesterol levels, and mineral intake. In other words, foods that are high in dietary fat, because dietary fat plays an important role in the production of testosterone. The other thing that a lot of these foods have is antioxidant properties, and that's very powerful because it's been shown to lower your cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And cortisol is the enemy of testosterone. You see, cortisol and testosterone have an inverted relationship. When one is high, the other will be low. So reducing your stress nutritionally is a smart move. I'm talking about things like eggs, beef, salmon, Brazil nuts, pomegranate, almonds, even things like avocado. But just be a little bit careful because avocados are very calorie heavy. And whatever you do, don't go low carb. Carbs get a bad rep because of sugar, but they're your body and your brain's preferred source of fuel. Now, I know already, because I've done lots of other videos about this, that as soon as I put this out there, there's going to be tens, maybe even hundreds of people in the comments going, "That's not true." Let me assure you right now, none of them are qualified nutritionists. I am. So you can listen to the YouTube comments section, be my guest, or you can listen to an expert who has actually done this professionally for the last 6 years. Now, of course, I'm not saying you want to be eating processed carbs. I'm not saying you want to be sitting there scoffing your face full of chocolate all day. In an ideal world, you want to be prioritizing the complex carbs like rice and potato. And the funniest thing that the low carb community won't tell you is that if you don't eat carbs, if you don't eat sugar, your body just makes it itself in the liver. This process is called gluconeogenesis, which sounds like a very fancy word, but actually, if you break it down and flip it round, it's very simple. So we have gluconeogenesis. So let's flip it. So we're going to have genesis, which is the creation, neo, which is new, and gluco, which is sugar. So it's the creation of new sugar. You see, when you don't eat carbs, your body steals some of that from your protein, from your fats uses that energy to create new sugars. Now, that's actually pretty bad news because it means the protein and the fats can't be used for their intended purposes. So as a rough guide, what I aim for you to do is get 30% of your calories from protein, 30% from fat, and about 40% from carbs. Don't worry, you don't need to be precise with this. This is just a rough guideline. Bear in mind though that there are 4 calories for every gram of protein, and same with carbs, but there are 9 calories for every gram of fat. So fat is a lot more nutrient dense. You can't just divide your calorie number by 30, 30, and 40. You have to figure it out a bit more scientifically. Of course, again, when I work with my clients, I do all of this for them, so you don't have to worry about it. But then besides all the maths, one of the best things that you can do is just to keep your meals simple. I wasn't making 10 ingredient, 3-hour Gordon Ramsay recipes. No offense to Gordon, you're great. But those meals, as delicious as they are, aren't going to help you lose fat. I was rotating the same 3 or 4 meals that only took 10 to 15 meals to prepare. I made them simple, effective, and repeatable. Because if it's not simple, if it's not easy, if it's not repeatable, you ain't going to stick to it. I followed the 80-20 rule as well, where I was getting 80% of my food from whole, nutrient-dense, unprocessed foods, but also leaving 20% of my calories to come from the snacks, the treats that I loved and look forward to, because that is what helps you stay consistent and sustainable with the 80% over here. So I'm talking about a few squares of dark chocolate after dinner or the odd pizza on a Saturday night. And that's what keeps the full-blown binges at bay. That flexibility is what keeps you consistent, because it's all well and good implementing all of the stuff that we're going through today for 1 or 2 weeks, but that's not going to get you anywhere. This process takes time. If you're in a 500 calorie deficit, you can expect to lose about 1 pound of fat per week. So 10, 20 pounds is going to take 10 to 20 weeks. But once you have evidence, whether it's looking at the scales or seeing how your clothes fit, that this is working for you, all you have to do is rinse and repeat. So you want to make that rinse and repeat process as easy and as simple as possible. And just as importantly, I was cutting out the stuff that I knew wrecked my testosterone. In fact, if you were to just take one thing from this video, just one thing, it would be to cut out alcohol. I am not saying that you have to cut it out forever, but when it comes to testosterone, it really is the devil. Processed junk as well became the exception and not the rule. And I stopped eating late at night. This made a huge difference. You see, I used to snack at 9 or 10 p.m., which I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. But without even realizing it, that was wrecking my sleep and digestion. Now I eat most of my food earlier in the day. So my lunch is normally the heaviest meal, and my dinner is 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed. You see, digestion is a metabolic process. It takes energy, it takes calories for you to be able to process and break down that food. And those processes require you to have a higher heart rate. But when you want to be going to sleep, we want your heart rate to be coming down to a resting level. So the two don't go together very well. And when I did this, my sleep transformed. And more importantly, I woke up feeling well rested, which, as you'll see later, is a game changer when it comes to your hormones. And yes, the elephant in the room, I tracked my food. Because at the end of the day, if you don't track it, particularly if you've never done it before, you can't improve it. I talked about this in my last video where I actually said there are people who comment on my videos saying that they feel like they're eating healthy, but they're not tracking their calories. And then on the comments of that video, people said the exact same thing. So sometimes, honestly, I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall of this, but tracking builds awareness. You do not have to do it forever. Honestly, if you do it properly for a month, you will never have to do it again in your life. It helps you to realize that the meals you thought were healthy, those salads that you're having, are actually over 1,000 calories, or that the smoothie you're having in the morning is actually over 500 calories. So no, I didn't follow some magic testosterone diet. I just ate like a man who wanted to feel strong again. Simple, repeatable meals, high protein, high fiber, lots of water. And as I said, I stuck to it. Not perfectly, but long enough to be able to see results. And once I got that dialed in, everything else started to move in the right direction. Here's the thing though. You can eat well, but if your stress is through the roof and your sleep is all over the place, your testosterone will tank. So in this next section, I'm going to show you the 5 daily habits that changed everything for me. The ones that help me sleep better, recover faster, and build an environment in my body that allow my testosterone levels to thrive. So remember what I said earlier, that cortisol and testosterone have an inverted relationship. When stress goes up, testosterone goes down. And your deepest, most anabolic hormones, testosterone and growth hormone, get released when you sleep. Not when you lift weights, not when you eat protein, when you sleep. On top of that, good sleep resets your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. You know that feeling when you've had a crap night? You wake up reaching for the caffeine, craving the sugar, and just scrolling for dopamine. Now think about how you feel after 8 solid hours. You're calmer, sharper, and hungrier for the right things. Not just food, but challenges and progress. So instead of chasing hacks, what I did is build habits. The first of those was sunlight. Once I realized how powerful this was, I actually started calling it free steroids. Because getting outside and exposing your skin and your eyes to natural sunlight spikes your morning cortisol when it's supposed to spike. And it also sets the clock for your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, to kick in later. It's almost like flipping a sand timer on its head. So if you can get outside within 30 minutes of waking, even if it's just for 10 minutes, it anchors your circadian rhythm. It's also the most natural way to get vitamin D, which is essential for testosterone production. And if you live in the UK, like me, or anywhere where it's as gloomy as here, you're probably deficient. Now, of course, you can supplement with vitamin D, and we'll talk about that later in the supplements section, but sunlight comes first. So trust me, take every opportunity you can get. The second habit was cutting back on stimulants. Now, I love my coffee as much as the next guy, but I was drinking 3 or maybe even 4 cups without even realizing it. And if you're sitting there thinking 3 or 4 cups, rookie numbers, you're in deep trouble. Because here's the thing, drugs like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, they all completely screw up your hormones. And worst of all, the one they mess up the most is your cortisol. So all you have to do is set a simple rule, which is no caffeine after midday. You've got to stop trading short-term dopamine for long-term hormonal health. That hit you get now, you will pay for later. Third, and this one's underrated, was male social interaction, particularly in a competitive environment. There's actually science around this one. You see, when you're spending time with guys who have high testosterone, guys who are ambitious and on a mission, it spikes your testosterone too. It's primal. You're literally wired to adapt to the tribe. And if these guys are lifting regularly and eating clean and staying focused on their mission, you're going to do the same. So I started making an effort to surround myself with guys whose standard was up here, not pulling me down to the couch. Fourth is cold exposure. Now, I didn't go full Liver King and start doing daily ice baths. I just started off with a 45-second cold shower first thing every morning. And to this day, I still do it. It jolts your system, it spikes your adrenaline, and it even increases your alertness. And yeah, listen, there is a little bit of evidence that it can stimulate your testes, but honestly, the real benefit, I think, is psychological. Because when you start your day with something hard, something uncomfortable, it just makes everything else so much easier. You stop negotiating with yourselves and you just find that it's easier to get on with things. And then fifth and final was walking. This is, without a doubt, the most underrated fat loss and testosterone boosting habit you can do. Because my clients who are sticking to their calories and their macros and consistently walking 10,000 steps a day are losing at least 1 kilo of fat each week. For you guys in America, that's over 2 pounds. So now we have doubled the rate of fat loss that we talked about earlier, just from one habit. And the reason that this is so powerful, not just for fat loss, but also for testosterone, is because it activates a part of your autonomic nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is linked to rest and digestion. And one of the most powerful things that it has been proven to do is lower your cortisol levels. And what all of these habits really do is help to make your sleep better. Because aside from cleaning up your diet and losing body fat, the second most important thing that you need to be focusing on is prioritizing and improving your sleep. But you can't just say, I want to sleep better. You have to take the actions that's going to help you to do that. You have to create the environment, both internally and externally. So we've talked about the habits that help you create the internal sleep environment, the ones that bring down your cortisol and help to bring up your melatonin, your sleep hormone. Now let's talk about what we want to be doing to help improve our external sleep environment. And it's very straightforward. It's very simple. It's not going to break the bank. What you want to do is get yourself on Amazon and add 3 things to your shopping cart. blackout blinds or strong, thick curtains, earplugs, and a fan. This is going to make your bedroom as cold, as dark, as quiet as you possibly can. And that is the ideal sleep environment. So it's not just about sleeping 7 to 9 hours, which is the generic advice every doctor will give you. It's about improving the quality of those hours. Realistically, I don't know who the hell is sleeping 9 hours a night. Whether you've got a busy job or 3 kids running around, I just don't think it's that feasible in the world that we live in today. But 7 hours of high quality sleep consistently, where you're going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day, is going to have such a dramatic effect in your life, you're going to be blown away. In fact, I realized the other day that if sleep was a drug, they would make it illegal. That's how powerful it is. So once you've built the system we talked about that helps you to lose 1 to 2 pounds of fat per week, the next biggest priority for you is to focus on how you can improve your sleep quality. And honestly, if you stop watching the video right now and just did those 2 things, just got lean and just improved your sleep, your testosterone will probably double. And if you want my top tip to improve your sleep, as well as the environment we just talked about, what you want to be doing is focusing on building a nighttime routine. So the best way to do this is to stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed, stop drinking 2 hours before bed. I'm not just talking about alcohol there, by the way. I'm talking about absolutely everything, because it stops you waking up in the night to have to go pee-pee, and come off your phones, whether it's the laptops, the phones, or the TVs up there on the wall with the Netflix and all this stuff, the stuff that's making you doom scroll, all the dopamine, the blue light, which is preventing the production of melatonin. It sounds so basic, but honestly, testosterone is built on basic. And once these habits are in place, once you're sleeping better, once you've built the system where you're starting to lose the body fat every single week, it's going to give you so much momentum, you're going to feel like a changed man. And right now, everything that we're going through, if you're not doing any of it, I understand that it might feel a little bit overwhelming. But if you follow the steps in the order that I've mapped them out for you here today, I promise you, within just a couple of weeks, this is going to be a game changer for you. And that's all you need. You just need to focus on one step at a time. Because the real secret to all of this stuff is building momentum. Once you have that, again, a little bit like sleep, it feels like a drug. And it's a drug you can't buy. But if you could sell it, you would be a billionaire, because it is so damn powerful. Once you've got those 2 bits sorted, the next thing to do is to optimize your workouts. Now, you want to ditch the long, steady state cardio, because the science shows us that actually lowers your testosterone. And instead, you want to prioritize your resistance training, lifting weights. But this doesn't mean that you need to be in the gym 6 days a week for 2 hours per session. 3 45-minute full body sessions where you're focusing on compound movements is going to be all that you need. So really what we're talking about there is less than 2 hours in the gym, which if you look at it as a percentage of your whole week, I think it works out to less than 3%. Compound movements, if you don't know what they are literally king. These are the exercises that work the biggest muscles in your body and multiple joints. So we're talking about things like squats, deadlifts. In fact, I'll put some on the screen right now. So we've got squats, we've got deadlifts, we've got lunges, we got pull-ups, we got push-ups, we got chest press, bent over rows, lat pull-downs. There's loads of them. And the reason these are so effective is because they use the biggest muscles in your body. And the bigger the muscle, the more oxygen that is required for that muscle to contract. The more oxygen that's required, the harder your lungs and your heart have to work to bring the oxygen in and then pump it through your blood to the muscle. Now, the harder all of this has to work, the more calories that you are going to burn. So not only are you building the biggest muscles in your body, which is going to have the biggest aesthetic difference to it, but you're also burning the most calories at the same time. Some of these exercises, particularly squats, have been shown to produce more testosterone and human growth hormone whilst you're doing them. To be clear, the goal isn't to train like a bodybuilder. Like I say, you don't need to be in the gym for 12 hours a week. The goal is to stimulate your endocrine system, your hormonal system, to naturally start producing more testosterone. You have to give it a reason to produce the testosterone. And doing these compound movements, getting yourself in the gym for 3 hours a week, 2.5 hours, whatever it is, that is what's going to do it. Step 1 and 2 were really about creating the environment within your body to be able to produce it. This step is about then the production of it. And over time, what you want to be doing is focusing on progressive overload. This is very simple. When you break it down, it essentially means doing more over time. So if you think about it, we have three variables that make up the volume you are lifting when you're in the gym. Let's take leg press, for example. So in week 1 of a 10-week program, let's say I'm going in and I'm doing 100 kg on the leg press and I'm doing 3 sets and 10 reps per set. So that would be 30 reps in total, 3 sets, 10 reps, and I'm doing 100 kg. So that would be 3,000 kg would be my total volume for the leg press. Okay, so that's week 1. Okay, in week 2, let's assume I'm doing leg press once a week. I'm going to go in and my goal is to try and do more volume. Now, most people, the easiest thing to do, particularly at the beginning, is to just add a little bit more weight to the machine. That's great. And you're going to do that. You're going to do your 3 sets of 10 and it's going to be higher than 3,000. Okay. But once you get to a point after week 5, week 6, whatever it might be, you're not going to be able to add that much more weight to the machine. So then what you want to be starting to do is manipulate the number of reps that you're doing per set. And if you really have to, although this isn't what I normally advise, you can add an extra set on to the exercise. But the point is, over time, that is how you stimulate the muscles and encourage them to keep growing. Because if you just go in and go through the motions and do the same thing week in, week out, your muscles adapt, your body adapts, nothing's going to change. There's also some science that if you add some sprints or some plyometric work at the end of your workouts, you can acutely spike your testosterone in the short term. So I would recommend you add these as finishes, and I'm talking about 5 30-second sprints on a treadmill, on the air bike if you wanted to. Obviously, you don't want to go crazy and injure yourself, but I would either do these at the end of your workout or even maybe on your rest days if you happen to live near a gym or have a treadmill at home. What's happening, I think, at least the way I interpret it, is that these movements create intensity, which then your body interprets almost as like a survival signal. It doesn't know that you're not running from a lion, but that's what it might think. And you would be amazed how resilient your body and brain is when it is put under real pressure. Last and least, supplements. Now, I want to make this very clear. These are the cherry and not the cake. The clue is in the name. They are there to supplement a healthy diet, not shortcut the hard work. Sadly, most people will watch this video and only implement the bits that they like the sound of. They'll skip the cold showers, they'll keep smashing the caffeine, they won't track their calories, and they'll probably still cut out carbs, even though I've told them not to. But if you skip the hard stuff, whether it's the sleep, the steps, the tracking, the recovery, the workouts, whatever it might be, the magic that you are looking for is always in the work that you are avoiding. If you just take the pills, the supplements, you will get 1% results. You'll be walking around with a very nice little cherry, but you won't have the cake. And I don't know about you, but that's probably going to look pretty weird. However, if you build the foundations that we've been through in this video and then add the supplements on top, your results will be exponential. So with that said, here is what I am taking every single day to maximize my testosterone. Now, I'll take you through these one by one, but I'll also link another video either up here or up here. I never remember which side these go, where I've done a full breakdown of all the supplements that I'm taking. So if you want more detail on any of these, or if you just like to geek out on this stuff, then of course, watch the video, wherever it is. First up is creatine monohydrate. This is a no-brainer for absolutely anybody. If I was president of the world, I would put this in the water supply, whether you're a man, a woman, a child, a gym goer, a couch potato, it doesn't matter. It increases your work capacity, your ability to train, your muscle retention. It's even been shown more recently to have cognitive benefits. And those things are all going to help you burn more calories and produce more testosterone. Why? Well, because they're going to enable you to train harder. And if you're training harder, particularly if you're doing those compound movements, you're going to burn more calories and you're going to produce more testosterone. Now, I used to take 5 grams a day, then it was 10. Now I'm taking 15, and honest to you, I have never felt better. That being said, if you have never taken creatine before, I wouldn't recommend that you go straight up to 15 grams a day. I would start at 5, see how you feel, and then slowly but surely build your way up. And it's not just about taking creatine. You want to make sure that it is creatine monohydrate. Take it first thing in the morning, every single morning. You don't need to cycle it. Next up, vitamin D. Now, I touched on this earlier when we spoke about the importance of sunlight. No pill is ever going to be as powerful as the sun. Well, never say never, but for right now. But in those cold, dark winters, this is just going to help spike your levels. And fun fact, vitamin D isn't even a vitamin. It's actually a hormone. So technically, if you're taking it, you're juicing. But that is honestly what I call the sunshine like free steroids. Now, the NHS and the NIH, I think that's what you guys call it in the States, they recommend anything from 400 IUs to 600 IUs, which quite frankly is pathetic. But if the last few years have taught us anything, it should be that we shouldn't trust a word that the government says. So I take personally 4,000 IUs per day, but there are studies that have been done on humans in safe controlled environments taking 30,000 IUs per day without any side effects. Again, I'm not saying to jump straight out to 30,000 IUs. If you have never taken this before, or you're not used to taking it, maybe start with 2 or even 4,000, see how you feel, and slowly but surely you can build your way up. But I have found the sweet spot for me is about 4,000. Then we have omega-3s, which are fish oils. These reduce inflammation, and when you have less inflammation, you have a better functioning endocrine system. And that means your body's going to be able to naturally produce more testosterone. Now, you want to look out for 2 active ingredients. They're actually acids, and they're called EPA and DHA. I take a combined 1,600 milligrams per day in a roughly 1-to-1 ratio. I think it might be like 900 milligrams of EPA and what would that be? 700 milligrams of DHA, something like that. It doesn't really matter. You want to be looking out for those 2 active ingredients. That's the main thing. And then we come to a supplement called Dominate, which I think we can all agree is like the coolest name of a supplement ever. Now, this is actually a combination of supplements that's packaged and sold as one pill. Now, it's sold by a company called Bulk, who are a UK-based supplement company. I am not sponsored by them. I am not paid to promote this product. I'm just telling you what I take. If you can't get it from Bulk, or you don't want to, you don't trust me, or whatever it might be, you can actually just buy each of these 3 individually. And those 3 are zinc, fenugreek, and D-aspartic acid. All 3 have been backed by research to support your testosterone, libido, and even energy. Then lastly, 2 other supplements, which I kind of went back and forth over whether I should talk about them on this video because I've only just recently started taking them in the last month or so, are magnesium L-threonate and Tonka Ali. So this particular type of magnesium L-threonate, crosses the brain barrier more effectively than other types. And its main function, or at least the main reason I'm taking it, is it helps to improve your sleep quality. So you get more restorative deep sleep. And then of course, as we've talked about, that means higher testosterone and just a better feeling, more drive in the day. And Tonka Ali has been shown to increase total and free testosterone levels in men. It fights that high cortisol, which creates a better environment for your body to be able to produce more testosterone. So that's higher libido, better mood, more energy. And that is the full playbook, guys. It took me 7 years to figure out everything that I've just taken you through in probably 20 minutes once I've done the editing. Remember what I said though, this system only works when you do it all and when you do it consistently. But if you do, you'll become a version of yourself that you didn't even know existed. I am not the biggest guy in the world, but I've got testosterone levels that are maxed out. I live and breathe by everything that I've taken you through today. But saying all of that, gents, this process starts by getting your testosterone levels checked. Now, I personally use a fantastic company here in the UK called Bluecrest. They offer a variety of packages with locations all over the country. And when I told them I was making this video, they were kind enough to give me a special discount that gives you guys 10% off. So if you want to check them out and get your levels tested, all you have to do is click the top link in the description under this video and use the code DougP10. In the meantime, if you want to get ahead and start bringing your body fat percentage down, check out this video right here next. And I'll take you through the 5 rules that every man has to follow to get to 15% body fat. I'll see you in the next video.